Nagpulong sa Malacanang ang legal cluster ng pamahalaan para sa isasampang kaso laban sa Tsina kaugnay ng iba't ibang isyu sa West Philippine Sea. Sa puntong ito, makakausap natin si Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo. Magandang gabi po sa inyo, Secretary Manalo. Thank you very much for giving us this time tonight.
Hello, good evening. Magandang gabi, and thank you very much also for inviting me here.
Well, Secretary Manalo, can we begin with this before we talk about what's going to happen next for the West Philippine Sea? Can we talk first very briefly about that collision near Bajo de Masinloc? This was the vessel that was involved was a Marshall Islands listed oil tanker. What do we know so far, and what are we going to do about this?
Well, first, let me begin by extending my deepest condolences to the families of the fisher folk who perished in this tragic incident. Ang alam ko lang is that the Philippine Coast Guard is now conducting a very thorough investigation on what transpired and to identify definitively the vessel responsible. And at this stage, therefore, out of respect for the families, the bereaved families, we feel it might be better to await the results of the investigation before making any further statements. So I think that is the approach we are taking now. But definitely, we are closely monitoring yung mga developments of this case.
All right, Secretary Manalo, itong legal cluster sa Malacanang napag-usapan what the Philippine government will do after August 5, the August 5 incident na water cannon pa yung mga barko natin. September, the resupply mission, during a resupply mission to Ayungin Shoal, to the BRP Sierra Madre. Earlier in September, there was another resupply mission. Although walang water cannon, hinarang pa rin, no, nakipagpatintero sa mga barko natin, ang mga Chinese vessels. And there was another resupply mission yesterday. According to Coast Guard, it was a success, but we expect that there might have been, well, like they said, no, merong a little bit of a harassment. No? So now the talk is what is going to be filed and where. Secretary Boying Remulla was saying pwedeng International Court of Justice or the Permanent Court of Arbitration. What are your thoughts on this, sir, and what is the DFA's position on this?
Well, our position has always been that taking a case for any country to a tribunal is always an option. And certainly, before taking or undertaking any case against a particular country and bring it to a tribunal will obviously require thorough study and consideration of all the aspects, including yung mga foreign policy implications. But I can just say that whatever course of action we take, and we might take, the priority, of course, will be to observe existing international rules and regulations, and also to be sure that whatever action we take will be consistent with international law, especially the UNCLOS.
Secretary Manalo, sinabi na nga po ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, and we quote, lumang diskarte na ang filing of diplomatic protest. I'm sure you will say that, well, that is the way to go because what other avenue can we take except for diplomacy? At the same time, sir, sa dami ng na-file na diplomatic protest, note verbal, and letters, are we still on the right path? We just keep filing them again and again, in spite of the fact na medyo hindi pinapansin ng Beijing.
Yes, well, filing a diplomatic protest is perhaps the most common tool that we use, for example, in the Foreign Office diplomacy. But it's not the only tool. But it does serve the purpose of putting our position or whatever issue we wish to raise on the record. And normally, when we issue a note verbal or a diplomatic protest, we expect that the country concerned will also reply in a similar fashion. So it serves as a record and also indicates our position. But filing diplomatic protests is not the only measure we use. There's also the even common approach or tool of summoning the diplomatic party concerned, could be the ambassador or an officer, or even making demarches to the foreign ministry of the country concerned. And of course, we have other mechanisms of discussing these issues, such as consultation mechanisms, bilateral mechanisms. So I would simply say that filing a protest, and we have filed hundreds of them when it comes to the South China Sea, is really only one of the many tools at our disposal.
So we have many tools at our disposal, like you say, Secretary Manalo. Pero may epekto po ba yung mga yon? In other words, does Beijing change tack? Does it hold back? Or tuloy-tuloy lang po sila? Because, for the ordinary citizen, that would be the measure of the effectivity of a diplomatic protest or any other measure that you will take.
Yes, of course, if we issue a protest, the concerned country will, of course, reply to whatever we state in that note, and I suppose that is the result that you would expect. And the same when you summon an ambassador, for example, or raise an issue in a meeting, you expect a reply. And I think those are the tools available to the Department of Foreign Affairs. I think. In dealing with this issue, of course, there are other agencies with different mandates who would be involved if we wish to undertake any other action or measures beyond diplomatic measures.
What kind of an effect would that have on Philippine-China ties? Or is it, the usual, usually ang sinasabi nila kasi, but we have, there are many facets to this Philippine-China relations, no? So we can be quarreling or disagreeing about territory and about the West Philippine Sea, but on other areas we're okay. Pwede po ba yon? Para bang we compartmentalize na lang? Is that how we are taking care of things?
Well, I think that's the approach many countries do when they deal with each other. There are, of course, many areas of cooperation, and also in this case, of course, we have a disagreement on the issue of the South China Sea, but of course, our total relationship consists of other factors, for example, economic cooperation, cultural cooperation, etc. So what we try and do is say, we will not let one issue affect the entire relationship. But of course, that one issue, what other issues where there are disagreements, will of course affect in some ways the way we deal with each other on other issues. But normally we have adopted the approach of not letting this single issue be the total or this total sum of our relationship, for example, with China.
Secretary Manalo, I hope you don't mind, pero we're going to take a very quick break. Pagbalik po natin, we'll just continue this discussion a little bit more for like about 3 to 4 minutes. So when we come back, ito po ang News Night. Kasama rin natin si Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo. Secretary Manalo, before we go back to China and our territorial dispute with that country, can we speak briefly about what is happening in Italy? What is the DFA doing about that, sir?
On the case in Milan, Italy, specifically, our Philippine consulate in Milan is continuing to assist the Filipinos who have filed complaints against the Alpha Asistencia. And there have been, at least as of yesterday, almost 60 complaints. And they have all been referred to our consulate in Milan. And at the same time, the consulate is also continuing to interview key witnesses, and a key witness especially whose name was used in the filing of the work permit applications. And the consulate has also been instructed to look into other cases of fraud which have been committed by Filipinos against sa mga kapwa Pilipino din in that area, including even possible scams on airline tickets and citizen applications. And as we just saw in the news, the DMW is also now involved in this investigation. So we are continuously monitoring this, and we'll be awaiting further reports from our consulate and the DMW in order to determine future action that we may have to take on this.
Pero Secretary, itong Alpha Asistencia, this group is known to the Philippine consulate there.
I understand that they have been aware of them, but I think that after what happened, they are now looking more closely into the activities of this entity.
Well, Secretary Manalo, just a few more questions on China. Well, two more actually, because usually hindi po ba ang sinasabi po natin is if you can't beat them, you join them. Pero siguro dito in this case, pwedeng sabihin natin if you can't beat China on territorial disputes, we might as well beat them in basketball games. So last night there was that Gilas win over the Chinese team during FIBA. The one and only win was against China also. I was wondering if that is something that napag-uusapan sa DFA na sa basketball lang ata tayo nakakalamang.
Well, of course, we're very happy that we won, and I think that's one aspect of our relationship where we think that sports and cooperation through basketball is one way, and I think we're all very happy with what happened.
What about this proposed new standard map, sir, of the Philippines? May update na po ba dito? There was that announcement about 2-3 weeks ago that the Philippines will be coming out with one. What happened to that, sir?
Well, we are still working on this map, various agencies involved in the government. I've been looking at the preparation of a new map, and we are still working on it. That's what I can say now. But just let me assure all of those that whatever map we come up with, it will be consistent with the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Final two questions, sir. First, what happened in Canada to the former Chief PNP, General June Asurin? Naayos na po ba yun? And he was just denied entry, or he was asked to, they didn't want to let him in, no? And that's why he decided to just return to the Philippines. But has that been resolved already?
Well, what I can confirm is that General Asurin, when he arrived in Vancouver, I think sometime mid-September, of course, was not allowed entry and was subject to a examination by the border officials. And then, as you mentioned, he rather than be detained in Canada, he decided to go back to the Philippines. Now we are still closely coordinating. The Department of Foreign Affairs is coordinating with the Canadian authorities. And we are still, based on this coordination, we will provide the necessary updates on this particular issue, of course, with respect to the privacy of General Asurin. But just let me assure all those concerned that we are committed to protecting the rights and welfare of Filipino travelers wherever they may be.
Well, is it true that there was an apology from Canadian authorities for this incident?
We've not yet received any, but as I mentioned, we are coordinating closely with Canada, and we will see how we can address this issue further depending on the results of our coordination and consultations with Canada.
And finally, Secretary, can you tell us what are the next foreign trips of President Marcos?
Well, for this year, the President has lined up a number of official trips. The first, the upcoming trip will be to Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to attend an ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Council Summit. So he will have the 9 leaders of ASEAN with the GCC leaders. And then we will have the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting to be held in San Francisco sometime in mid-November. And then the Climate Change Conference in Dubai, I think on 1 December. And finally, the ASEAN-Japan Commemorative Summit to be held in Tokyo mid-December. So those are the upcoming official trips of the President for this year.
Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo. Sir, maraming salamat po sa inyo for joining us this evening.